Welcome to Porch Play Chats, sponsored by the American Association for Promoting the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately named IPA-USA. IPA-USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association, IPA World. As part of our efforts to promote play, we're happy to introduce and provide to you our Porch Play Chats. These are conversations that focus on a wide range of topics from experts that are just as passionate about play as we are. You can always find the latest Porch Play Chats on both our IPAUSA.org website under that advocacy tab, or by visiting our Facebook and YouTube channel. One Porch Play Chat is released every Monday on YouTube and our Facebook pages. I'm Deb Lawrence, president of IPA USA, and with me today is Janella Watson. Janella is a children's media, edtech, and museum consultant with expertise in creativity, play, and experiential learning. Drawing on more than 20 years of work as a researcher and practitioner in children's museums and science centers, she creates curriculum, media content, exhibits, and experiences that center equity and spark joy for the whole family, including the children. Her current clients and partners include Nickelodeon, Brown University, Causality and Mind Lab, Nucleus Education, Sesame Workshop, and MathTalk. And Janella lives and works and plays in Providence, Rhode Island with her husband and her curious and kind 7-year-old. So today's topic that Janella brings to us with all of this great wealth of experience is embracing the whole play spectrum. And so Janella, you have been doing this not as long as I have, because I'm much older than you are, but for a while.
Keeping our youthful spirit, Deb. That's what it's all about.
A long time. Where does your practice fall on the play spectrum that you're going to talk to us about today?
So many of us are familiar with the phrase play spectrum, really coined and studied by Kathy Hirsch-Pasek, Roberta Golinkoff, and Jennifer Zosh, and so many others that we read and admire and follow in the world of play. And really, I've asked myself and asked you, Deb, to ask a trick question. In my 20 years in children's museums, science centers, and now dipping and dabbling in kind of all spaces where children and families explore, play, and learn together, I've recognized that there's room and a need for us to embrace the entire play spectrum in the experiences that we create. And not only am I talking about everything from free play, which is child-initiated, child-led, to guided play or purposeful play or playful learning at the other end of the spectrum, which is really adult-initiated, sometimes adult-guided, but each of those kind of spots on this continuum of play have incredible affordances, benefits, and features that really help create a holistic environment for kids to learn, play, and grow in. And so my practice has not only included what I hope are the tenets that lend toward voice, confidence building, and agency at the heart of all of the play experiences that we offer up for kids. But also, I'm a little radical in embracing a spectrum of play that includes low tech to no tech play in nature with loose parts and sensory rich play, to embracing the affordances of technology, of media, of tech that sparks and inspires kids to create, embracing technology and kind of all of the goodness that can come from really uh, looking holistically across the play environments that we create, and drawing out and being able to see the goodness that happens at every level of that play spectrum. So
yeah, so Janella, I think that's where we get so confused, right? There are benefits in certain technologies, but there's what I'm seeing in classrooms is all the bad stuff, right? A teacher putting on a YouTube channel and having children sing to the person that's singing on the YouTube channel, or teachers pulling up a person reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar on a YouTube channel, and then just sitting there doing nothing with children, or having them sitting at a computer and you have 10 minutes before the next person comes and it's not something that's valuable, light tables and digital cameras and doing investigations and taking photos with an iPad, all that. I'm like, woo! But it's just this other piece, since they have so much of that at home and in restaurants and so I really think that that's where we need to sort of separate and say what is the good stuff and what isn't the good stuff.
Well, and I think that Deb, one of the key pieces there is I often reach for technology, be it media that we are passively engaging with, to those pieces that we actively engage with, where we are the creators, and use technology as a tool, and recognize that there is value actually across all of those pieces of tech. So, I am not only a play practitioner, but I'm also a parent. And our experiences in stay at home through COVID and the pandemic taught me so much more than I intellectually and academically knew and understood about play. As I really was home with my kiddo, who will call himself a gamer before he'll call himself a hiker, right? He's definitely embraced gaming and has his favorite, shows, and recognizing that we were all leaning into screen a little bit more heavily than any of us would have liked throughout the pandemic. I started to realize and recognize that there was value not only in the tools that he could use and reach for that enhanced his creativity and his curiosity. So things like circuit blocks, and reaching for LEDs and coin cell batteries in order to explore, do a little bit of STEM exploration, but also that my kiddo was taking Mario characters, our good old tried and true Mario Brothers, on wild adventures around the house, that he could take the media that he was really engaged with in the moment, be it something that he read, like the Dog Man series, or a television program that really spoke to him, like Craig of the Creek. And he was extending the imaginary worlds within the media that he was passively consuming, and turning it into active opportunities to play, explore, and to extend his learning. He did so organically and on his own. So cutting out, drawing and cutting out Mario characters and having them explore around the house, creating new worlds for them to play in, And sometimes I, would take time to scaffold and guide that play that extended what he was viewing and consuming into something rich where the learning goal was mine instead of his.
Yeah.
But recognizing that that it was less trying to curb his intake of those sources of media that we see as passive, the kind of junk food of
Yeah.
technology, right? And knowing that the creators of those media are thinking intently about what learning goals and outcomes can be seeded in in those TV shows or those YouTube videos, and also that I could play a role as his first playmate in really extending what he could draw out of and build on from those pieces of media that he was consuming.
And so, Janella, what you just did is show and demonstrate how you can take that passive experience and how your son took that passive experience of I remember playing Mario Brothers. I can still hear that little tune in my head all the time. How he was able to deepen that experience in a non-media environment, right? So use it as a spark to imagination, and then use active learning to extend their adventures in your own home. But then how you as a parent and an educator were able to hear and listen and observe, and then deepen and scaffold and help him discover or uncover other ways to do something. And I think that is what sometimes we miss. I think we get over here, we're on the free play. Children are choosing what they want to do, staying as long as they want. And I think teachers feel helpless then. They don't feel like they're doing their job. And so they think they have to be a little more structured. So, then they say, well, Johnny, Susie, Mary, and Ahmad can play in blocks, and Sarah, Susie, and Billy can play in housekeeping. And so then they begin, because they don't feel like they're doing anything when they've set up the environment so that children can explore and be curious and go into their own worlds. That's, I think, what we need to help them with.
Yeah.
What on that continuum, what does it look like? And how do you avoid feeling like you're not doing anything? Or, in some cases, just sitting back saying, okay, great, they're playing, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah. I think
How do we communicate that?
I think the critical part there, Deb, is the lens we take to children's play. So a piece of what I've discovered about embracing the whole play spectrum comes from my experience within children's museums. And children's museums, science centers have really seen themselves often closer to the free play end of the play spectrum. And we find, actually, when we look closely, that they have signatures and opportunities at each spot on the play spectrum. So anytime we are creating an environment, even one where we are hoping to encourage and inspire free play, we as the adults are still curating that environment. We are pulling together the loose parts, or we are staging an environment with things that we hope will spark imaginative play and pretend play and exploration. And a children's museum environment is no different. We hope that when a family comes into our space and is ready to explore, that they will divine their own path through those play experiences that have been set up lovingly and with a lot of thought and care to open up the possibilities in terms of how children and families will explore that environment, how they will use the objects and materials that we put before them, how they will find problems worth solving to them. And it a piece of my practice has not only been how do we create the greatest exhibits and environments, and how do we then translate that into what we can create in classroom environments, but also how do we create an observer's eye to that play? How do we create a keen lens through which we look at children's play to understand not only the things that are there on the surface. I see some active problem solving going on. I see that face of frustration as a child is trying to put that puzzle together or balance objects that really weren't meant to be balanced. Helping parents, helping teachers look deeply and closely at free play and see what they notice about the child's engagement in that play, their unique use of materials and tools, and really giving teachers a degree of freedom to step back and to really observe children in the midst of their play, to sharpen our eye for what we can see as opposed to what we're placing on the play, is a really important, I think, place to start.
So Janella, I think what you have done, I love how you took the Children's Museum planning, right, and thought and intention in setting up that environment and inviting families to explore and discover. We all know children's museums do that in a wonderful way. What I don't think people realize from what you said, which was an aha for me, because I always get ahas from these, was that every family is going to explore, discover, be curious differently, and that's okay. And so I think teachers go in with this, I've set up this amazing provocation and I've spent a lot of time on it and I've put a lot of thought into it, and they're not doing anything that I wanted them to do with it. And that's okay, right? Because they're still learning.
Value.
Yes, there's value in that. And so sometimes I think as educators, I don't want to say we try too hard, because sometimes I don't think we try hard enough. But I think maybe we're putting emphasis on the wrong part of trying.
Yeah.
and that's what we really need to deepen our understanding of, that when there are these opportunities in my observation and stepping back and listening to children instead of, remember a long time ago when the big thing was asking open-ended questions, and
Absolutely.
on some god-awful assessment tool, it was how many the teachers were required to ask 10 open-ended questions every half hour, and they were worthless.
Yeah.
But they had to check off the box. Oh my goodness. And so I think that when we try to prescribe it, we lose the value of it, right? Open-ended questions are incredible at the right time, in the right place, and when you're not disrupting what's happening, right?
That's it, exactly. So, Deb, this has my mind going in two different directions. So I think about not only kind of as educators in the classroom, stepping back and taking a keen and observing eye to the free play that children engage in, but also what it means to curate and create a play environment, a provocation, to dive into project-based learning, to listen to kids and follow their interest, to find and curate a theme for them to follow. I'm joining with Kathy Hirsch-Pasek, Roberta Galinkoff, and other incredible men and women who are researchers and practitioners in play. We're launching a new, what we hope will be a revolution in education called the Ultimate Playbook. And I'll share more with your audience as we develop, that folks can find more information about what we are up to at theultimateplaybook.org.
Oh, yay.
And really the intention of what we are creating is to help teachers, coaches, schools, and school districts embrace playful learning. And as a person who really has been in my practice, playing at one end of the play spectrum pretty solidly, and evangelizing for free play that is child-initiated, child-led, following the child's interest. It's really been fascinating to come into a conversation with researchers who have spent the past decade and more studying where learning happens in play. And so we're recognizing that as we create this professional development model that we will invite folks to join us in, that it's really about finding those opportunities for child agency, voice, and confidence in all of the activities that we generate and create. So often in early childhood classrooms, the activities and the play that we engage in is actually the creative thinking and manifestation of the teacher, as opposed to the kiddos. So recognizing that when we talk about guided play and setting up provocations, exploring a theme for weeks at a time, that can still be rooted very much in a child's interest and passion. My kiddo for a very long time was very numbers focused. He's a kind of natural pattern seeker. And I had to learn as a parent to follow his lead, to recognize that my best chance at really kind of creating a well-rounded opportunity for him to learn, play, and explore was to take the thing that he was most passionate about, be it trains or machines or Mario, and contextualize the rest of what I needed him to practice and learn through the lens of what he was most passionate about. And that same opportunity exists in our classrooms and with our students.
It does.
That following their lead doesn't always mean chaotic free play with materials flying everywhere, although I am one who embraces, and that's I think we've covered that territory before.
Me too.
Yeah. But that there are through the model of playful learning that the Ultimate Playbook is really rooted in, there are it's about embracing the richness of what comes out of children's exploration, imagination, and their play, and really galvanizing it in service to their development of those 6 C's, the confidence and the creativity, the critical thinking, all of those affordances that come when we, you know, are scaffolding the play with some discrete learning goals that are a blend of our goals as educators and our kiddos' goals for their play. I really, one of the greatest experiences I've had is working with David Sobel at Brown University in the Causality and Mind Lab. Dr. Sobel is a wonderful developmental psychologist and someone who has taught me a lot about looking closely at children's play and understanding what is happening and how to really make the most of those play experiences. And Dr. Sobel, Dina Skolnick Weisberg, and Laura Stricker, researchers and play experts in their own right, engaged in a study in museums where Laura, as researcher, put a GoPro on the chest of each kiddo as the player, and as researcher wore a GoPro herself, and synced those two streams of video of kids playing in a museum environment, in an exhibit, for 10 minutes at a time. And to be close to this research and to see research assistants for the past 2 years unpack all that there is to see and understand in that 10 minutes of play. Not only how a child approaches an exhibit, whether they follow the learning goal as kind of created by the museum, either through text or kind of contextual clues in the environment that they are playing in and exploring in, whether a child comes to an exhibit and sets their own goal for their play. So whether they adopt and follow kind of the intention of the provocation, or if they buck it all, right, and create their own learning goal, how they're situated in their play. So whether they are playing with a parent, playing with a peer, engaging in parallel play where they're next to a peer but not really impacting each other's play. I have to say, maybe this will be the topic of our next conversation, because I could go on and on about the richness of that study. It really it opened my eyes to, first, what we can learn when we look closely at children's play, whether they reach for a material first or sit back and watch others engage with it in order to pick up clues and cues as to how they're going to engage in the play. All of those kind of, we're still mining that data and unpacking kind of all that there is to learn about these little play vignettes. But we also asked kids what they were thinking about as they were engaging in moments of play. When they had those faces of frustration as they were trying to either attend to the goal of, the kind of natural goal of the exhibit, or if they had created their own goal that they were trying to achieve in their play, all of that richness of problem solving, of voice and confidence building, that we can see that we are trained to see very easily in guided play, and need to train ourselves to see more keenly in free play.
Yes.
It's all there. And,
Oh my goodness. So Janella, I need to know about that research study, because that is what we need to help teachers see, right? You don't think anything's happening. You think they're just playing. But if we could show them those vignettes and have them thoughtfully think about that, and just say, what learning goals do you see children accomplishing or trying to achieve? Or because it's that observation piece is where I think, they think they're observing because they have to complete the checklist.
A rubric.
Right?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Instead of observing to see what children are actually doing so that they could eventually complete the checklist, right? Right. So I think that's where we're falling apart. I really do. That when they're so busy, we ask so much of them for so little pay to do an enormous amount of work and thought and planning and interacting with children, that I think we're focusing on the wrong thing. And the article that Mike Huber and I just wrote in Exchange, I think really highlights that piece, that we really have to rethink what we're doing, because I think we're losing some things that are important, and especially those relationships. But and we're going to have to end, and I don't want us to. Hours.
So as a final thought there, as I continue to deepen my own practice, the heart of my practice is serious play for myself. And it's what I desire for educators that I work with and talk with, that we find reinvigoration by embracing the whole play spectrum, and recognizing that if we look closely, there's value to be found. And sometimes it's not about our the checklists of academic skills that are learned, although there is that kind of learning inherent in play as well.
Of course.
But it's really re-energizing and reinvigorating our spirit as educators. And honestly, opening and extending the invitation to all of us, no matter where we fall in age chronologically, to maintain a youthful spirit by embracing play ourselves and playing with our practice. Yes. I often reach for and guide my work with 100 little experiments, and inviting teachers and educators, formal and informal, all of us who care about children, to put some play into our practice. Yes. Is I think the heart and key of my work. And I thank you as always, Deb.
Oh my goodness, Janella. We have to do this again, because I think we scratched a tiny surface of the topic, right? But I also think that I'm going to go to the ultimateplaybook.org and send me other resources, especially that study, if you've got it, on what's been happening at the Causality Lab, because I think that is an amazing learning tool for everyone that we could package and do as a whole conference. We could do the whole thing as a conference, which is amazing. So don't go anywhere as I close this up. So, for more information on other Porch Play Chats, or to join the conversation, please visit IPA-USA.org. And until next time, thanks for playing.